Wow, this vehicle has a high and erratic idle. We're going to go over that and several other top problems on this 7th generation Nissan Maxima. Let's get into it. Let's open our hood so we can start removing the engine cover to gain access to our first problem. If you find that your vehicle has a hard time starting, or like a long crank scenario, and a check engine light that pops up on your dash, if you were to pull the code, it might tell you that you're having an issue with one of your camshaft position sensors. This vehicle has a 3.5 liter engine, it's a V6, it actually has 4 of these camshaft position sensors. Now the good news about these sensors is they are fairly simple to replace, especially for the bank 2, which is the forward one closest to the radiator. As you can tell, that was very simple overall, and ordering the parts from FWDauto.com is just as simple. The next problem that we're going to talk about that involves these engines is a rapping or a tapping noise coming from the front of the engine. If you were looking down along this side of the engine or the front of the engine, you're going to find a metal cover, and behind that is your timing chain. The timing chain itself has timing chain tensioners and timing chain guides. Honestly, on these particular Nissans, they wear out prematurely. If you start hearing a tapping or a ticking noise coming from this area, it's letting you know that there is an issue coming from inside the timing chain area, and you need to go ahead and take care of that. A couple notes about prevention and a fix for this is preventing the issue from happening in the first place would be keeping up on your general maintenance, such as your oil changes. You want to make sure that you're going at your specific intervals and using the proper engine oil. If you have dirty or even low oil, it's going to cause this issue prematurely. For our next problem, we're going to be talking about an issue where you're driving in your vehicle, moving, but you're looking at the dash and the speedometer isn't working. This typically has to do with an electronic speed sensor that's located on the transmission itself. On this particular vehicle, it's going to be located along the top of the transmission. If you were looking underneath where your throttle body is, you can see the transmission, and there's a small sensor there. That's the area that we're going to have to gain focus. Now for this, if the sensor did have an issue, it's fairly simple to replace overall. The most difficult thing is just gaining access. You might have to remove several things to make your way down there, or you could just carefully squeeze your arm down and through. After that, of course, a quick inspection, clean everything up, reinstall a brand new one from FWDauto.com, and then test the functionality. Now let's get back to the first problem that you saw at the very beginning of this video, where we had that high and fluctuating idle. This is a common issue on these Nissans, and it typically has to do with carbon buildup on the backside of your throttle body. Believe it or not, you can actually clean the carbon on these throttle bodies, but typically you have to remove them from the vehicle. The reason why you'd have that surging or the high idle is due to the fact that the carbon is causing a restriction in airflow leading into the engine. Something to note about cleaning the throttle bodies though is along the backside of the throttle body is where you're going to find the most amount of carbon. Let's talk about our next problem. This one has to do with your fuel and emission system. If you're having an issue with your EVAP vent valve, you may find that you have a check engine light that pops up on the dash, or you might find when you're trying to fuel up your vehicle at the fueling station, as you're pumping in the fuel, it tends to turn off on you several times, and you know for sure the tank is definitely not full yet. The reason why that is because you have an EVAP vent valve, and that's attached to your charcoal canister. The vent valve really only has 2 functions. It either opens or it stays closed. If the vent valve was to stay open, you might find that you just have a strange fuel vapor in the air every time you're walking around the vehicle. Other than that, if it's stuck in the closed position, the computer can't open it the way that it should. You're trying to gas up, and it's building up pressure in the tank, and it's telling the pump that there's too much going on, and it keeps turning it off on you. Now, this is something that's going to be attached to your charcoal canister on this vehicle, and it's located underneath the rear. Some other symptoms that you could find if you are having an issue with this could be a hard start when the engine's cold or been sitting for a little while. Aside from that, when the engine actually does start and it's sitting there idling, you might find that it runs a little rough, or even the engine stalls out on you. And of course, if you did have a check engine light on because this has failed, you're going to fail state inspection as well in most states. So that's just something you want to think about.